Now, first of all, what do you think of Victoria? Do you know the Adams? They lived here for so many years. I think there were multiple generations here.
Thank you. That was mail. Here.
Okay. So who's here? Are you? I can't tell because my friend.
I've been worried.
You've been worried about what? When did you live here? When did you live here in your living form? What year? What about Timothy Mather Adams? Do you know who Timothy?
No.
No. What about Hugh Mather Adams?
Thank you.
He's very random.
It's me.
It's you. Are you Mr. Austin?
It's me. Watch yourself.
Sarah Benzino, Brandon to Boston Auto Body, LLC. Woo! What did she call her? Yeah, she sold the twins' name rings.
You know, like stadiums do. Kids are so expensive these days.
Oasis Breeze and in stock.
Like money with artists. But hard with no compromises can be compromising.
You can stop this?
Yeah. And then fixtures left over. What up, Chad? It's important to leave you drowning in regret. If it's important, it's not worth compromising. Like farmers, you're following and savings. Ain't forever, no.
Mary?
Yeah, thank you.
What do I need to watch myself from?
Don't come closer.
I'm over here. I mean, listen.
I want you to.
What's up, bro?
You think you're over it by chance?
Creativity.
Okay.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like someone who's really contracts for some people, by the way it sounds.
I'll forever be a person in my house.
You don't want to leave. This is your house. But you do know that other people can follow, right? You get that?
Like, getting a headache. That was me, that's me saying that. Like, I'm getting a headache. Oh. How did that go?
At first it was vague. But then it kind of started to make sense. It sounds like a more modern ghost.
Yeah.
Someone you said they got very excited when I asked if they took their own life. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Okay.
And then you were like, I'll forever be a person in my house. Like, you don't want to leave. Like, you didn't want to leave. And that was right when you start getting a headache.
Yeah, they're just weird, like right here.
Yeah.
Like a little, like,
It's fine. What's for you? It's the end of some very frustrating. like, I almost felt like we were talking to someone who feels like they have an identity as long as it's that.
Yeah, instead of being give up or to like move on, cross over, it's like
They're gone.
yeah, gone.
Yeah, and so I don't aggression isn't in the main part of the building.
Yeah, like really interested more intense. So I think approach should be sort of
I think a really unique scenario for Advocate right now is that we have uncovered that yes, there is this kind of angry spirit here, but now we have to figure out how to fix it because this is their life for them. Like we cannot teach this way because explicitly people will not want to think that this is and we focus so high and put so much into it that we that is really driving us to the rest of the conversation. Last night, Spirit Box has been in the carriage house. So far, it's Adam and I are about to call Chip. We're going to do things a little bit differently. Adam's going to stay here, talk to Chip. What area is hiding? There he is.
hi Chip, we're in the location, I suppose location. I will speak with you and you will connect with Amy remotely. She will speak to us through the walkie and we'll just tell her what you're getting and direct her where to go. This glacier map is it feels really old. Like there's a lot of residual stuff that's going on there, but then there's some intelligent, interactive sort of it's they're all about and everybody's kind of left their own atmosphere.
Okay, I'm here.
And she's there now, Chip. The one who's getting stuff most basically not that other people don't get things, but there is it's prominent, the activity is prominent actions. Here, there is one particular female who resides, who spends a lot of time in this place that you're at, and she was kind of the one that's either the most vulnerable, most susceptible to what is going on in this place. I think she is well all over the country with life by what's going on. And I'm wondering if there's been some dislocation like punching or pinching or shoving or something. There's been something that's been done and it's here. Yeah, sort of a living woman. Correct. Okay.
There's a faceless person there, and they grabbed my wrist and said, immediately woke up, and I could feel the breath in my ears.
Can she continue? She went upstairs? Yes, she's right upstairs.
In the carriage house upstairs.
Don't stay there. And that's the issue we support you from the beginning.
Mission copy and then I don't have the ability to play school because of the so then you have to just give me that spark back to say like it is possible.
Sanders. There's an spirit of man. There's that area. So, and it has the possibility to affect you. You want to know life and life and
And then the other side of that space, getting anything.
God, you want the God want you there to do. He was gifted you again.
I also heard one of you say, I wish I was still alive.
Are you picking up anything else on that space specifically? Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna head back on and heading up that way. I have no idea.
Thank you, Kid. We really appreciate it. Help comes up, we will contact you, but you can
Thank you, sir.
I mean, things about a few things. He didn't like that space, obviously.
I will say that following the second Georgia slept, but he went out, when he came down the stairs, he went outside and watched the vibe. So he's taking really good. I was by myself. I was like, okay, I get it. Like, I can see and it shows this spirit footage of what we do.
Okay.
They show him that if he talks to us, communicates with us, that he will be remembered forever.
If he doesn't communicate with us,
Well, absolutely be correct. I'd like to know who that guy is before he gets a lot out of hand.
yeah, we'll have to check it out. We know the spirit in the carriage house is afraid of people down the road.
The farmers been up here talking to us. They're just wanting to show us what it's up to. So we have some videos to show you of people we've helped before. And now keep in mind too, this is a judgment-free situation. So please watch.
This clip when Amy and I were helping someone they were looking for. She did not know. She had
No, you don't have to, of course, but sorry over and over again. And actually, her headstone, her gravestone.
yeah.
Do it.
Okay, so who are we talking with? My friend is listening to the headphones.
I guess.
Yeah, but that was yesterday. And she's looking to it now. Can you talk to her? Can you tell her? Tell us why you spoke to her yesterday. It felt like she was doing when you forgot. You understand? We're not just forgetting, right? Because this is something by millions of people. They're going to know that there's somebody in this.
That's one.
Hey, no, more than one person can watch this.
It just said something really bad I cannot repeat, but it was a derogatory term.
blackmail or extort the world.
Negotiations with Iran are at a standstill, and so is traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, this time due to a U.S. naval blockade of the passageway, where the conflict goes from here.
They will never have anything to do with it.
President Trump's last home Rio is ahead of the passenger protests with Iran. Plus, U.S. fertility rates are down, with the exception of women in their 30s and early 40s, what's driving others.
What would that day be like for you when you look down in the street of something that you think is beautiful?
And it's never too late to find your passion. Steve Harvin has the story of a centenarian and his newfound house for pottery. The Daily Report starts now. We told the outlet to swallow sexually assaulted sex workers who had constipated babies. NBC News has not verified the allegations, but confirmed pregnancy, which worked for Swallow 2019 until 2021. CNN also reports 4 women made sexual misconduct allegations against Swallow, including one whose story matched the details in the Chronicle article. NBC News has not independently corroborated their sources. Swallow repeatedly denied both false accusations against Capitol Hill. We've sort of laid out how we got to this point here, Mel, but
Before October 2023, the Iranians were calling the shots. They were setting the agenda for the Middle East, timetable. They were waking us all up every morning with their own, plans. Now that's changed, but it's going to require persistence on the part of the United States, persistent pressure with our allies to make people understand that the change of power means they have to change their strategies.
what do you make of the blockade that is in effect right now? What does it change?
Well, it's going to be, a new territory. We haven't quite seen this before. I think one of the interesting things about what happened in Islamabad is that Pakistan offered its good offices to negotiate, undoubtedly with both Saudi and Chinese green lights. Saudis obviously want the straits open, but so apparently do the Chinese. So I think that over time there's going to be growing pressure internationally placed on Iran to open up the straits. The question is how long that will take, and the United States is going to have to be part of a group that will apply all means, economic, political, and military, to make sure that happens.
To leave Congress. He was also facing pressure from some of his own allies and friends in Congress, some members of the California delegation, Senator Ruben Gallego, one of his closest friends in Congress, also since the conflict began, Iran has really closed the strait by threatening to attack those tankers while allowing tankers owned by countries friendly to Iran to pass through safely. That means Iran has been continuing to make money during this active war. That is a problem the Trump administration had considered dealing with by potentially seizing or invading a key export hub like Clark Island. By imposing a blockade, the U.S. intends to devastate the Iranian economy without impacting the oil infrastructure that could have repercussions on energy prices, and without putting any American boots on the ground. There's an effort to get Iran back to negotiating. What else does the U.S. want to do? This appears to be certainly an effort to cut off one of the vantage points Iran has been able to sustain throughout this 6 weeks or so of the conflict. Because the strait is so close to Iran's coastline, Iran has been able to threaten any tanker that passes through with missile attacks, drones, even despite the U.S. military strikes that have eliminated a lot of this threat. Any risk at all is going to discourage traffic to go through. But blockading Iranian ports will almost certainly drive energy prices up unless the U.S. can open the strait to all other traffic. President Trump said that on Sunday. 34 ships were able to pass through safely, but that's still down from the 125 that transited the strait per day before the conflict began. What challenges does this blockade, does Pentagon actually trying to enforce this blockade present? The challenge is if Iran decides to retaliate. Right now we're in a 2-week ceasefire. If Iran decides to attack any of the ships that are in the strait, that could pose more challenges for the military there.
It's just like there are a couple of things where it's just like, man, I don't know what they're actually doing.
Let's bring in CBS News Executive Director of White House and Politics for the moment. So then realistically, between sovereign war here in the U.S. or Iran?
So I think in the short term, Iran suffers war. It's blockades its ties to stop the Russian police in the strait and profit economically while the rest of the world suffers exposure. But the U.S. is insulated here, of course. Oil is getting $100 a barrel and spiking. And this represents the largest U.S. Supply disruption in American history. So if this continues to absolutely be problematic as well as for Republicans heading into midterms.
It's well known the vote's not a political position, so how does back and forth between the president and the vote come to fruition?
I will say, over as a former altar boy and a Catholic, I will say that in history, of course, the popes have been the heads of state. They launched like the Crusades, but recently, in modern history, yes, you're right. They are typically political, not in disrespect for what we've been seeing. And this has been back and forth. As you mentioned, it's been building for weeks. Lindsay, Pope Leo has repeatedly condemned the war. And on Saturday, he called out what he described as a quote, a delusion of impotence, fueling the conflict, which remarks that were widely seen as directed to President Trump. Trump responded Sunday, calling the Pope a weak on time and terrible for foreign policy, even suggesting Pope Leo only became Pope because the Pope wanted an American Pope to manage the Trump administration. The president doubled down today in remarks to the press. He pointed to our own region, saying outside the Oval Office that he would not apologize. Again, reiterating that he would not apologize for his past in Pope Leo. And he was said, responding to the vote, and there's nothing to apologize for. But the Pope fired back, saying he has no fear in speaking out against this White House administration. But it really is just an unprecedented showmanship.
Something that's unprecedented. Let's go ahead and bring up that AI image. The president posted on himself and took it down. He claims he was being depicted as a doctor. Some people see something else. What's happening?
Well, look, I mean, look, they took it down after having it out there for a while. I mean, likely because of the blowback from his own page. The post generated a wave of outrage across the political spectrum, but including in particular from those MAGA conservatives who called it, blasphemous, Martin Taylor Greene, old allies, President Trump called it an antichrist spirit. Maddox Rodney King said she wouldn't understand why he posted, and on and on and on. So really sort of this shocking sort of reaction, at least it's unexpected from the administration's perspective. But again, it's not some of these pillars that we've seen, important buildings from that 2024 coalition build. Evangelical is one of them, one of their pillars. And you've seen a lot of evangelicals have some really sharp criticism for this in particular. And she's pointed out from midterms, it's also something that has worried some Republicans as well, this type of language.
Being on a state too, and later this hour we'll see a closer look at the tensions between the church and the White House and how Catholic voters may react to the president's political post. We are following some breaking news out of Capitol Hill. Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California says he will resign after multiple women accused him of sexual misconduct. CBS News professional from Capitol Hill. What else do we know about Swalwell's decision and what comes next?
Yeah, Lindsay, so what we saw in his statement that he released just an hour ago, he said that he first wanted to apologize to his family for the loss of efforts as part of his benefits. And then he said that he's resigning because he believes that his position action from his duties. In his statement there, he said the strong contest with the stage about shooting May is wrong. That's because they're going ground and partisan after the expulsion campaign about bipartisan means for of the ongoing allegation that has ethics committee has launched an investigation into these allegations as well. But from this process, what difference a couple of days have made? He wants quite a different movement in terms of the dropping out, and now he's removed himself from the seat, ongoing allegation. As for what happens next, it had Yates' office has launched an investigation, a criminal investigation into those allegations. But as it stands for that House Ethics Committee investigation, they no longer have jurisdiction over him. So ultimately, that was to go forward.
Before this decision, Swalwell was not the only lawmaker facing possible escalation. So who else is facing pressure right now?
Yeah, 3 other lawmakers.
Sorry, Toby, I didn't know you were in the chat.
Gonzalez of Texas, Corey Mills, and Jericho McCormick were under allegations or have been accused of a couple of things. For McCormick there, she was accused of money laundering. Corey Mills, sexual misconduct allegations. Only Gonzalez as well, related to a staffer who ultimately committed suicide. But there's bipartisan calls for all 3 of them to resign as well, if not be expelled. There's a big diagram of lawmakers from across the aisle who are calling on all 4 to step down, or who have called on all 4 to step down. Nancy Mace of South Carolina is one who said she would vote for all 4 of them to be expelled. But different leadership stands, but we haven't necessarily heard from House Speaker Mike Johnson, Leader Thune, in the Senate about whether or not that should go forward. But this is something on the mind of lawmakers, especially in light of this news, as well as resignation, Lindsay.
Tori Small, thank you. The House will return to session tomorrow following a 2-week recess. To recap, just some of what will be on lawmakers' agenda: possible expulsion votes, the ongoing Homeland Security Department shutdown, and Democrats likely pushing another more powerful resolution in reaction to developments in Iran. Also on the work front, the White House could formally request an extra $100 billion supplemental funding package with Congress's approval. Talking about new evidence, what messages obtained by CBS News tell us about an American woman's concerns about her husband before she went missing in the Bahamas. Plus, Britney Spears voluntarily checks into rehab while what led up to the pop star's decision. The big report returns in 60 seconds. I would definitely recommend Teletext. My text expert, she was amazing. She answered all of my questions. It all just felt super easy and transparent. You gotta try it. You have to do it. Radiation treatment monthly without more results. Nurtec ODT can provide relief in 2 hours, which can last 2 days. Allergic reactions can occur even days after use. Get help right away for trouble breathing, rash, swelling of face, mouth, tongue, or throat. High blood pressure and Raynaud's syndrome can occur. Get help for high blood pressure, numbness, fullness, pain, or colored juice in fingers and toes. Common side effect is nausea. Ask your doctor about Nurtec ODT. Vice President J.D. Vance left Pakistan this weekend without securing a peace deal on Iran, although officials tell CBS News that two sides are still trying to move forward with a trade agreement. But President Trump's naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is further raising tensions with the Iranian regime. A spokesperson for the Iranian Parliament's National Security Commission wrote in part on X, quote, "Such moves is considered an act of war and we would respond." Ian Bremmer joins us now. He's the president and founder of the creation firm Zero-Build. Ian, thanks for being here. How do you assess the state of the ceasefire in light of this blockade?
Well, I think we're in a de-escalatory environment compared to what we feel. There is a ceasefire that is still in place. We didn't have that. They were actively fighting and bombing and throwing missiles at each other. Furthermore, there was 21 hours of negotiations. If they had gone badly, they would have been done in a couple of hours. They would have gone back to the respective countries there'd be no ongoing negotiations. The problem is that President Trump feels like he lacks leverage over Iran, having said for so many occasions that we don't need this trade, care about it, it's up to your DNC to take care of this. For Trump having told the American people in prime time that the war was only going to go on for 2 to 3 weeks and then he would end it. There is clearly a view around the world that I think the Iranians would share that we've got leverage and Trump doesn't. And so I think that calling on the whole committee, then saying we can take more economic pain, but we're going to prevent you, Iran, from making money out of extending these talks, because the talks may go on for quite some time. And if Iran is straight, then they have a very heavy incentive to solve the
And so you mentioned that if the talks weren't going well, they would end much sooner than 21 more hours. Was there just some time period of what's going to do after this first round? Where do we go from here?
Not really. I mean, you have no trust whatsoever. You've got a lot of difficult issues, and you have the Americans and the Iranians both of them say that they have more leverage coming in. The Americans are much more powerful. They're the much bigger military economy, the superpower, you name it. And the Iranians feel like Trump may be the biggest military, but he's got a glass jaw. He's not patient. He's not prepared to take pain. So, I mean, in that regard, I think 21 hours between Vance and the Iranians, only 6 weeks after the U.S. and Israel literally assassinated their leaders, that's a better position than they could easily be in, right? So definitely that was progress. And the fact that Trump announced that, these talks are over and it's a disaster and we're going to have blockade, those are the important things. But the fact that the talks are ongoing is the most important issue.
But maybe the majority of the American public doesn't understand the reasoning you gave that the president is just trying to increase leverage over Iran. Do you see this blockade as part of the pocketbooks both here at home for you?
Every day this you are squeezing pocketbooks around the world. And Trump may say that we don't need the Strait of Hormuz, but you do have to understand global economics. The United States has $4 plus gas prices, $5 plus diesel prices, and food inflation is coming soon. Even on the global market. And even if the United States is the largest global and it is, the fact is, we get shut down a big piece of the supply. And that means the United States is not able to issue the Trump underwater. Trump is not popular. So MAGA supporters are still a strong majority favoring it, but not independents, and not the rest of the country. And Trump watches those polls. He looks at the markets. He understands what people pay for gas. Remember when he gave gas was in Iowa. Right now, here's the president. He's never been responsible for an economic downturn. It was only the pandemic. It's not Trump's fault. He never decided to deal with the country with an economic downturn that is just solely the fault and responsibility of the American president. He doesn't like the fact that he can't blame anybody. The longer this goes, the bigger that problem is. The Iranians know that, and so they're trying to weed him out and squeeze him.
Amber, thank you.
Bye-bye.
16-year-old brother on her ship last November has officially been charged as a result of her death. Court documents select the teen, identified by his initials TH, sexually assaulted a woman. The alleged incident happened while the carnival ship was in international waters in Florida. The suspect was convicted charged in February with a district judge. Ordered this case to be transferred for adult prosecution. The obtained rights to the show there. Taking more time to express concerns about this and then listening like a big rock and people looked up and said she fell from their boat and swept out. And Susan custody by the connection with her. CBS's correspondent was jammed in to discuss more on the investigation.
It is the decision made for an American man of being held by the Indian authorities after his wife had subpoenaed during the 1990 conflict over the Fiji Coast.
American Lonnie Hooker is facing tough punishment as the Haiti authorities continue to investigate him over the disappearance of his wife, Lynette. Missing because she found over more than a week ago. CBS News updated messages the Michigan mother sent to a friend back in January 2024, which seems to shed light on possible trouble at sea. In those messages, she told a friend, "It was too much closeness. We decided to call it quits. We were married 21 years. Our marriage lasted 6 weeks cruising. It was real bad. I can't be out there with him." A month later, the couple was back together. Now, over the weekend, we also spoke to Lynette's daughter, Carly Aylesworth, who spoke out for the first time since Booker's arrest. She told me that she was sad that they found enough evidence to even take him into custody. Now, CBS News also obtained these maps, apparently sent by Booker, showing what he says is the last day that he and Lynette spent together. And it is really getting down to the wire. According to Brian Booker's authorities here in the Bahamas have until 7:20 p.m. tonight to decide whether to charge.
Got some stuff on the sweater.
Back to you.
Well, this young lady to thank you. From the FBI found a person's home in connection to the Molotov attack.
I already know what kind of joke you was about to make.
Some investigation is next. You're watching the Daily Report.
I haven't been in the lay of the land to evaluate big test for young homeowners. There's an overflow line somewhere in the vicinity. That much is full. They go to us. Their garage is full. They're going full. I heard it comes right here. Stand by. I bet you guys have driven some great cars, huh? Becoming a bit what's this? That's incredible. Everything from heat to unlock your fast forward out. Lights to fix training. And battery conflicts. Yes,
Groceries covered by Medicare. Next, their grocery stores like Walmart, Costco, and CVS. Spend it on things like groceries. Wait another 12 months. Requesting your card is simple and free to check. Just call the number below and speak to a Medicare professional. Once qualified, you will receive your card at home in a few days and can be used right away. Call the number below and it's yours.
Checking on CBS and Paramount Plus.
The FBI today raided the home of a 20-year-old man accused of throwing a Molotov cocktail in OpenAI CEO Sam Altman's house in San Francisco. Authorities recovered multiple incendiary devices, a jug of kerosene, and a lighter. Federal prosecutors say they've recovered a document in which he says that claimed responsibility for trying to kill Altman. Dana CBS News chief correspondent Matt Gutman has more from Los Angeles.
That's right, Sam Altman's home was firebombed early Friday morning, and then today, 2,000 miles away, federal officials raided the suspect's home in Spring, Texas. You can see those aerial images right there. Now, the suspect, Moreno Gama, is booked on charges or suspicion of attempted murder and arson. And
Authorities also say that not only did he allegedly attack Sam Altman's home in San Francisco, but then about an hour and 7 minutes later, he was outside the OpenAI headquarters. Police said that he had some sort of can filled with that he said was filled with kerosene, and he was threatening to use it. Now, shortly after the incident, Sam Altman issued blog post. He doesn't share much about his family, but he shared a picture of his son and his partner, saying that in the hopes that it might dissuade the next person from throwing a Molotov cocktail. And outcomes, no matter what they think about it, Altman also suggested that the attack on his home is related to a general upset in the country and fear over AI. He also suggested that we should de-escalate the rhetoric tactics, try to have fewer explosions to our homes, figuratively and literally. And mind you, this was the second attack on an AI-related site or a data-related site in the space of a week. In Indianapolis, the home of Ron Gibson, a council member who voiced support for a $500 million data center in the area of Indianapolis, was targeted 13 bullets fired in the front door, right past where the son had played Lego the night before. Nobody was hurt in that incident, but a note was left at the door saying no to data centers. So obviously this speaks to the greater upset in the country, the fear that the advent of AI and the rise of these data centers, which destroys legislation and upset general communities, and that is going to have a massive effect. Now, one more thing about that subject. We've written a blog post recently calling AI an existential risk. One last thing, he said we have to stop this initiative as quickly as possible. It's a race to the grave. The FBI also says that court documents suggest that that suspect had a list of other AI-related officials that he might have wanted to target. Thanks.
Matt Governor, thank you. A representative for Britney Spears says the pop singer has voluntarily checked into rehab. They followed her arrest for suspicion of driving under the influence last month after authorities received reports of her car speeding on the freeway. She was released from custody a day later. Authorities have not released the results of the chemical tests taken after her arrest. The local district attorney's office has not yet responded to CBS News inquiries asking if Spears' decision to seek treatment will affect her next court date, which is scheduled for May 4th. Coming up on our next half hour, President versus Pope. More on the feud between the leader of the free world and the leader of the Catholic Church. You're watching the Daily Report on CBS News 24/7, the next free streaming news service in America.
Sure. This is perfectly well. Yeah. But did you know we also have t-shirts and postcards and salads and a sweater that part blazers and this print will be print custom notes, stickers, and effect, and everything else services that coming back to you. Right now, the customers get 20% off this print. Because if you need it, we print it.
Design 2026 based on November. The 2026 process. The most ambitious sexual ever. 5. Statements of such documents will fall out.
This sequel, it's that why you came to the valley.
The farmers no compromises and compromise.
You still with this?
Yeah, even had a few screws left over.
That's the same us.
That farmers rallying in regrets. The farm is not worth compromising. It's quality and savings.
Go home. Knowing about Walmart installed unit, drinking on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Welcome back to the Daily Report. I'm Lindsay Ross, live from the CBS Broadcast Center in New York. Here's the Michigan Star's top stories. After 16 years in power, Hungarian President Viktor Orban succeeded in the national election last night. Other roughly 6 million people who voted more than chose opposition last day. Of attacking democracy in Hungary. Under Orban's leadership, the UK-based anti-corruption group ranked Hungary as the most corrupt country in the EU. Engine troubles prompted a small plane to make an emergency landing on a road in Munich Sunday. Surveillance video showed the aircraft skidding down the street before stopping in position. The local fire department says 3 people were on board at the time. All of them were able to get off the plane on their own or help not man. They all declined to go to the hospital. The Trump administration has agreed to keep a pride flag up at the historic Stonewall National Monument in New York City. In February, the Park Service took it down, citing federal guidance that said non-agency flags can't be displayed. The CEO and elected officials re-raised the flag in protest. Court documents show the Park Service and Interior Department agreed to maintain the flag. A judge still has to sign off on this. The monument was across from Stonewall in where a police raid and subsequent uprising in the 60s helped kickstart modern health CBS News polling is giving some insight into how Americans feel about the war in Iran and what it's meant to accomplish. CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Savano, joins us now. Thank you so much for being here. So, what are people saying about the goals and what's been done so far? So, you feel like the reasons have been properly
Articulating is an interesting way to look at this because what you see is 2 things almost saying the government when you see that saying that they explain the goals. People say the reason they haven't what is it about that lack of clarity? It's those who say they think this is changing the goals. Not that they have been articulated enough, but they've been changing, so it's hard for people to keep up. And accountability and saying, what do you think the goal is? Stop people from voting, stop bringing other countries. These have big bipartisan majorities that they don't feel like they don't get. That's the biggest difference. And of course, the top answer there, open the street police. That relates to gas prices, what people are telling us. That's planning for votes, and it's driving down the president's handling of overall, and also inflation.
So we've been talking also about presidency right now with the post, this image that he posted, which appears to be, it's an AI image, and it sort of depicts him as this Jesus-like figure. He says he was a doctor, but what does polling say about how Catholics view the world?
So I'll put on this prospect from our current polling, and I'll start with the job approval rate overall among U.S. Catholics. 46%, it's actually a little bit higher than is overall compared to the whole population. But I do want to show you this because 2 things. One is approval for the military action in Iran is typically with the population as a whole. Whenever you're looking at U.S. Catholics and other groups, frankly, you want to break it out by church attendance. Just the proxy in some ways for that. People who go to church more than people that, again, that's a way of looking at religiosity. Weekly or more approving of the president than those Catholics in the U.S. who all we see that dynamic very often, where religiosity is often then more conservative groups, especially among Catholics and other religious groups as well. So what you make of that is this is often a for any Republicans in modern times case.
prices are down as investors express optimism that tensions between the U.S. and Iran could ease despite this U.S. military blockade faithfully. Dow Jones closed the day out more than 300 points, and NASDAQ up 280 points, S&P 500 up nearly 70 points. Brent crude oil prices are hovering around $98 a barrel after Monday evening, down from triple digits for most of last week. West Texas Intermediate, the U.S. benchmark, is at $91 a barrel. The moves have sparked slight relief at the gas pump for Americans. According to AAA, the national average gas index down about 2% Friday. Track how the gas prices CBSNews.com/gas prices. Congress to approve on the price tag more than $200 billion for the first block. Most of some of the like custom requests to between $80 and $100 billion. The new damage Democratic Senator Mark Warner discussed the proposal on Commission. Does this mean you would not vote for a supplemental funding request if the president needs more money to finish what he started?
I want to make sure our troops who've got that deficit. But this president should have come to the American people in Congress first and say, I'm going to change the vote of war. Here's what I want with tribal conflicts. Those 4 goals of regime change, uranium, missiles, yes, and the Strait of Hormuz. We only got those goals about 10 days into the war. And on any honest assessment, I don't think we've accomplished any of them so far.
You can watch Face the Nation every Sunday here on CBS News 24/7 at 2 p.m. Eastern. A federal judge has dismissed President Trump's $10 billion lawsuit against Wall Street Journal over its reporting of a birthday letter he allegedly sent to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. Trump accused the news outlet of defamation, saying he was not the author of the leaked note and that the journal failed to properly investigate it. The judge said the mere fact that the Wall Street Journal asked the president for a comment, and its other investigation work for the story disproved Trump's complaint. The court gave him 2 weeks to refile the suit with new arguments, which the president vowed to do. Immigration Customs Enforcement announced a 49-year-old Mexican man died in the custody weekend, marking the 16th detainee death reported this year. The agency is on pace to reach a record 1 inmate deaths this year if the trend continues. The announcement comes on the heels of new data showing the number of people in ICE custody fell by 12% from January through March. The data also revealed a 21% decline in people without criminal records being detained. This is the first major drop in ICE detention numbers in Trump's second term. At this point, Leo says he has no fear of the Trump administration after the president criticized the pontiff for his stance on the U.S. war in Iran. While here, CBS News special correspondent Nora O'Donnell discussed how uncommon this sort of back and forth is between the president and the leader of the Catholic Church. I mean, it's incredibly unusual, but remember, critics against the U.S. war in Iran. Popes are not partisan, but they can be on the great moral and political powerful voice. 20% of the U.S. population is Catholic. 6 of the 9 foreign correspondent Chris Lipsay is Chicago with the Pope in Africa.
So the American Pope is pushing back against criticism from the American president with a degree of boldness that is so far unprecedented. Speaking to journalists on the papal plane to Africa before it had even landed, he told journalists that he, quote, has no fear of the Trump administration and will continue of the gospel. Now, Pope Leo also quoted scripture. Blessed are the peacemakers, he said. And which is where I was asked if he could comment on the recent remarks from President Trump on truth social. The Pope responded by suggesting that the president has misunderstood the message of the Gospels, seen here in this video that I took. He added that soon these innocent people are being killed and insisted that there is a better path forward, one rooted in peace and reconciliation. Now, when one journalist asked the Pope if he had seen the post from the president on Truth Social, the Pope responded, "It's ironic. The name,
What up, Adrian?
no more words necessary." In other words, he was referring to the word truth in Truth Social. Back to you.
Crystal, say thank you. CBS newspaper contributor Canada Moss joins us now. Thank you so much for being here. So let's go ahead and start with this AI image that was taken down. The president claims he's shown as a doctor. 54% of Catholic voters supported President Trump in 2024. What will they see?
Well, I think if you see what everyone else sees, which is the president with his face again, as a doctor, with the white garment, the red sash, supernatural light coming out of his hands and feeling them out. It's a all poses that people are accustomed to seeing. Think about these Christian iconographic business that should be spread. And so the Catholics, the Christians will rule this image of deity to manage the blackness.
Let's talk about Pope Leo. He has criticized the war with Iran, and he is not alone. Nolan Donald interviewed the Cardinals for 60 minutes last night, and here's what the Archbishop of Chicago said about the White House's social media post.
Victims of war, but turning suffering of people and the killing of children and our own.
Yeah, she in her room sleep. She punished.
To splice together moving cuts with actual bombing and targeting of people for the purpose of entertainment. It's sick. It's not who we are. We're better than this.
She punished
How do
Adrian.
you see the church and Pope Leo navigating these tensions at the White House?
Well, it isn't the first time that
She punished and she's sleeping.
the United States have gotten involved in. John Paul II was critical of the first Gulf War, for example. But what we're seeing here is a church that is speaking up to sort of violence and dehumanization. And this is the position of the Catholic Church. This is Pope Leo said.
I still got a phone, but she probably knocked out, man.
Since that Pope Leo has claimed, we aren't criticizing the Trump administration, we are criticizing war, and we are advocating for peace as Jesus declared it.
Canada Moss, thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come, the U.S. fertility rate falls to a record low. The changes the Trump administration is making to try and boost births. You're watching the Baby Report.
Okay, appreciate it.
That's the home is hard. This will help you shop, well, buy the right customers.
What do you think of this option? Look so good together.
No, hey, we got so much attention. Oh, I know. Let's break all each other.
That's not good.
Trying to get to 2,000 to reach one of my goals.
How to choose the best call. Search your best report. Compare firms to the best reviews. Visit the websites. Click on the results page. Investigate how you try to reduce some of these habits. Copy and clients. It's the necessary discoveries.
All she has to do is sell that she no longer wears. she does snaps, lists, and sells for $51 pieces. And the Zero selling she keeps every dollar she earns. Don't wear it, sell it. Download it.
Right here. Blind as a bat.
CBS Paris Plus.
Texas Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez says he plans to retire from Congress. He wrote in a post on X, quote, "There is a season for everything, and God has a plan for us all."
Appreciate all the likes.
Quote, it has been my privilege to serve the great people of Texas. Gonzalez came under scrutiny after a former staffer committed suicide last year. Gonzalez admitted to a fair staffer with the 900 duty with her death. New data shows the U.S. fertility rate fell to a record low in 2025. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the general fertility rate for women aged 16 to 44 fell by 1% this year, marking a roughly 23% decrease from its peak in 2007. The current figure stands at about 53 births for every 1,000 women in the United States, down from a high of roughly 69. The new information comes after the Southern District announced changes to the Title X Family Planning Federal Grant Program. The new guidelines include the promotion of, quote, natural family planning methods rather than traditional hormonal birth control. It also informs clinics participating in the program that they must end diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts and ensure federal resources are not used to both facilitate or incentivize illegal immigration. CBS's medical contributor Dr. Celine Gowner joins us now. She's also editor-at-large of Public Health at KFF Health News. So, Doctor, what is Title X and why do these changes matter? The Title X was signed into law under President Nixon in 1970. This was bipartisan support, both Republicans and Democrats, understanding that low-income families needed help to be able to access and afford birth control so that they could plan when and how many children they have. Today, the program serves some 3 million patients a year at 4,000 clinics across the country. They offer not just birth control, but also testing for sexually transmitted infections, which can lead, by the way, to infertility, as well as screening for various cancer like cervical breast. And since I've had patients who are seen in Title X clinics say that is the only place where they can. So what does this mean about that? Well, there's clearly a shift in, you look at the kind of language they use. They only mention contraception once in the entire document. There's a lot of use of the words chronic diseases, body literacy, in other words, body your own experience tracking, to understand what you might be most fertile, or selected to get pregnant during your period,
appreciate the gifts.
Cycle. Terms like IUD or condoms or birth control, but not necessarily sexual control. So clearly understand language from how to prevent or plan pregnancy to how to use pregnancy. What do you make of that, and what does the science show when it comes to birth control? Well, it's just, I think some of those statistics in the context, on average, most women are still going to end up having, on average, 2 children per woman. What we're seeing is they're actually delaying.
Appreciate the gifts.
They're more secure in their career, their job, they have a more secure housing situation. And so that looks like a drop in the birth rate, whereas in fact it's just one. But, in terms of what the science says, I think there's been a lot of misinformation online, also thinking about risks of contraception, and I think it's really important to be clear with hormonal contraception. Is there a risk of blood clots? As one example, there is an increased risk, but pregnancy itself increases the risk of blood clots 5 to 20 times more than being on a hormonal contraceptive. So you really have to put things into context, and yes, there's a risk that women are going to be facing, whether they're taking hormonal birth control for pregnancy, but pregnancy is by far the more dangerous situation. So the crowning a champion, Rory McIlroy wins the coveted green jacket while his career earns a special place in golf history. You're watching the Base Report.
That's experience. All designed to help your small business stand up. First, sometimes there's your brands and other ones. And return come in and spends on every one of their trails. You bring A-frames that bring in business.
posters to show them what you're all about, and final banners that let everyone know it's about the reviews, no matter what. During all the sites. So for that band, this one has this group under
126 at renting.
He also said that big fence got
Huh? So I'm not gonna like.
That should hold it for now.
I know what to do. Install your cashnetusa.com. Reply in minutes, and if approved, we have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
You're my hero.
Saving the day is easy. Cashnet USA.
So speed money fast. You can do it. Go to cashnetusa.com and apply to the Lucky Unique app.
Slotomania, the #1 free slots game, presents the iconic Betty Boop, featuring 2 new amazing Betty Boop slots. Exciting bonus games.
I don't know what your name is, man.
Adding the Slotomania,
You share a like.
slots and huge jackpot. Tell Media now and play Betty Boop slots and get 25 free spins and 50 free coins. Oh my God, Shady.
Whatnot is an app where you can buy and sell old sorts of collectibles.
Keep it down there because you never know what you're going to find. If you want to get loud, here we go. I just hope about my collection. This is exactly. It's so much fun. Streaming on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Rory McIlroy is the 2026 Masters champion. McIlroy made history Sunday, becoming just the 4th person to win back-to-back titles. The two-time Masters champ came out the gate swinging, heading into the weekend with a 6-stroke lead, and by the end of Saturday, he was tied in first before dropping in the standings early Sunday. Leader McIlroy found his rhythm on the back nine, clinching in a 6th major championship. Tiger Woods was the last person to win back-to-back Masters in 2001 and 2002. Williams made his way to the WNBA draft in New York City. The Dallas Mavericks took the first overall pick for the 2nd year in a row, and are expected to select 2 point guard Avery Budd. All of the players selected tonight will benefit, though, from the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement with larger salaries for rookies. The top pick will make $500,000 their first year, nearly 7 times as much as last year's first overall selection rate. A 102-year-old man from New York State never cheated such like you do. Hard to take this on the road. Want to sit at the couch again?
Good. It is remarkable being this able since the age of our But that is not the story here. And it is also extraordinary that George Strassman can still thrive at 102. That's not our story. We're probably hearing George still works 4 days a week in his family construction business. Amazing as that is. Instead, we came here to Great Neck, New York, because of what George does on his day off. For the past 10 years, George dropped complex. Why?
I've always worked with young hands. That's not the same thing to do. I've telling them to do well.
A challenge his teacher, Rosalie Dornstein, says, most of the praise.
Bill wants to get better.
For him, like so many artists, of all skill levels, creators became a compulsion of the a quest for deeper meaning, for greater meaning, a quest that has no end. And not about the grass, but color the nuts, right?
George's wife Nancy says every week her husband brings home another piece of
cardboard box. He relentless, relentless determination and endless optimism.
Maybe stuff like that. About how you-
What would that day be like for you? Would you look down at the tree and something that you think is beautiful?
It's pretty silly.
Everyone is always searching for the secret to a long and happy life. But at least in George's case, the answer is clear.
That won't set me here.
You can't leave this earth
But
until you're finished.
you're gonna have to come back and try again. Yeah, thanks. Thanks.